Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Payoff Pitch presented by Fantasy Phenom. I'm Kyle, that's Mike. Back to break down tomorrow's, or June 17th's, 15-game slate. We have games all over tomorrow. We have 2 games that FanDuel doesn't have listed yet. I'd imagine they'll put out a very early slate. We have a 9-game early slate. We have a 4-game main slate. On DraftKings, I believe it is a 10-game slate, and it includes the Colorado game. I'm sorry, it's a 9. You said it's a 9-game slate on DraftKings, but it doesn't. It includes Colorado.
No, it's 10.
It is 10. Okay, that's right.
The 10-game slate. It starts at 2:10, I believe. Let me make sure that is correct, but I believe it starts at 2:10. With that, what game is that?
The Cleveland game.
The first game of that doubleheader. Yeah.
So FanDuel.
Cleveland, Minnesota.
Yeah, FanDuel doesn't have the first 3 games on their early slate. They do have a very early slate. And then the main on both sites is 4 games.
Cool. Yeah, it's main. Yeah, both sites 4 games, and I think that's. Does that have the second half to the doubleheader on FanDuel?
Yes,
like
it does.
DraftKings does?
Yes, it
does. Cool. So just there's 2 games before, so 8 out of the 10 games in the early slate start at 4 or 4:05 or 4:10 or whatever that is. It's just the San Francisco at Colorado at 3:10, and then the first game of that doubleheader in Minnesota at 2:10.
Let's see, for FanDuel, ours all start at 4, but we also have the Seattle game at 5.
Yeah, so June 17th, man. I mean, isn't it like the summer solstice is the 20th? So we're getting to that point where like the days are pretty long.
I can tell you it's hot.
Yeah, I mean it's nice. It's nice that like it gets to like 8 o'clock and it's still light out, man. Summer is in full swing.
I don't like it, but I also get 108-degree weather.
Yeah, that's pretty hot. I don't know if I can handle that. I do. I like it. I like it in like the upper 80s, mid or low 90s. That's where I thrive.
Yeah, I'll stick with 70. Today was a decent day. Nothing crazy either way. Missed terribly on the Toronto stack. For those of you, all 1% of you that stacked Chicago, congratulations. I didn't pitch Biagini, but I did buy into the Toronto stack doing work today. Didn't work. All over Colorado. That worked out well. I had a San Diego stack, and mainly the guys that put up the points. Hunter Renfroe, Will Myers, Franchy Cordero got on base a little bit. And then I had one more. Who was it? Oakland and Kansas City in the late slate was a stack we talked about. Sharp action again on Oakland and the over, and sharp action on the under and Kansas City. And so on DraftKings, we were talking about it. Minaya and Kennedy. Kennedy went out and had a really nice game. And then if you played Lorenzo Cain and Aaron Judge's one-offs and then stacked Oakland and maybe some Sal Perez, you were definitely cashing in the main or in the late and looking really, really pretty. As far as myself, obviously I have been getting back into the betting scene, and that has been treating me very, very nicely. I won for the 5th straight night. My strategy is, of course, I place a ton of single bets. Like I'm talking, I load up on single bets. There's a process called Bet the Board, where you just bet how much you want on each outcome. I'm betting team over-unders. I'm betting game over-unders. I'm betting team money lines, anything that I think I can win. And I'm winning those about 70% of the time. So I'm bringing back profit every night. That's awesome. And yeah, man, everything's looking good. Did you play much DFS today? I know you worked.
Yeah, no, I try not to play much on Tuesdays and Fridays. I continue to say that. I mean, I've learned myself, my strategy doesn't generally work very well on these 15-game slates. But, played 8 lineups. I only played dollar contests, so I played a total of $24. and cashed in 2 out of those 8 lineups. So didn't make a profit, but I didn't lose all my buy-in on DraftKings. I really didn't do anything but one-offs, and most of my lineups had 2 to 3 home runs in them. It's just one of those days, man. You look at the home runs across the board, high-scoring day. I mean, look, it's just a little recap. Top 4 pitchers on DraftKings. Max Scherzer led all hitters and batters with his 10 strikeout, 8 inning performance today. Second was Alex Wood. Third, Carlos Martinez. Fourth, Carlos Carrasco. But all 3 of those guys were kind of in the same exact scoring. So it looks like if you paid up to one of those 3 guys, you're probably okay on DK on this slate. Obviously, paying up to Scherzer was a totally different animal, a totally different lineup build. Yeah. So I could see, even though having Scherzer, you had to kind of hit your punts well. So just one double down today was out of Lorenzo Cain in that game. Pretty much single-handedly won the game for Kansas City. So that's a little recap. Again, that's just my strategy on these big slates. I try to scale back, but everybody's got their own spot, right?
That is true. So we're going to start to make some transitions in the formatting of the show. Don't worry, we're not getting away from everything, but we're noticing that it's almost prolonging the amount of time we're talking about guys that end up not even being in lineups. So we're going to start to strictly focus more so on the pitchers to pitch. I know that's kind of the focus, but we're going to strictly work on pitchers to pitch and pitchers to target. And then the full slate breakdown will be as normal for the subscribers in the pre-lock show. That format will stay the same, but this night show we'll try and kind of streamline and identify the plays that we're looking at without rambling on about guys that may or may not play in the lineup. So Mike and I have developed 5 pitchers that we are playing and 5 we are attacking throughout the day. So there are 4 standout pitchers for us on the early slate, the big slate I guess you would say, that we're playing and that we're attacking, and then 1 on the main that we're pitching and attacking. So starting...
Just to touch on the change in the strategy, I guess, from the show. I mean, it all comes from, we listen to you guys. We also know from watching the shows what is going on, as far as when we break things down, generally we do focus mostly on which pitches we want to attack, which pitches we want to play. Most of our research goes into that. Most of, the time on the show talks about it. So we felt like we were doing a disservice by touching on a bunch of different things. And even though, it doesn't really make sense to on the night before. We felt like the best way to spend our time, the best way to spend your time the night before a slate, before any lineups come out, before any of that, would just to be eliminating the rest of the nonsense and talking about the 5 pitchers that we see from afar on this slate look like could be good plays, and vice versa, the 5 teams we think could be good plays based on their matchup and pitching, because that's not going to change tomorrow.
Exactly. So, starting with this game in Coors.
Okay.
A guy that we're attacking, obviously, it's going to be a DraftKings perspective on the big slate. FanDuel, it'll be very early, but Matt Cain, awful on the road. You look at Colorado, no surprise that their home run per fly ball rate is increased at home. It's a much better park. Their WOBA is increased. Their average increases. What is nice is their strikeouts are down. Their hard contact is up. So a lot of things that play in that favor. Matt Cain, of course, as I mentioned, home road splits are legit. You're looking at Charlie Blackmon, who continues to have an amazing season. I'd imagine he leads off tomorrow. So this Rockies lineup hits both sides of the plate well, quite honestly. 273 average versus lefties, 266 versus righties. So nothing too drastic. I think Matt Cain, for me, definitely a guy we're attacking.
Yeah, obviously not cheap. It's the core slate. You're going to have to make a decision. You're going to pay up to one of these 2 pitchers on the early slate on DraftKings, or are you going to try and look to Coors to find some bats? I think people are going to be hesitant to look on San Francisco, especially for their prices and for what they've been doing. But strangely enough, Matt Cain hasn't played Colorado this season. I know these two teams have squared off home and away already. No Matt Cain game logs to look at, but we obviously saw that he had an incredible start to the season. That has kind of gone away. We're looking at least 5 blow-up spots already this year from Matt Cain. In Coors, coming off 2 straight at Milwaukee versus Minnesota. I mean, this offense is going to, I think, be a chalky one, especially looking at the pitching options on DraftKings.
Yeah.
And one that you're going to have to, again, make a decision. Do you want to go pay up and pay down for your SP2, or do you want to pay up for both your pitchers and fade the Colorado game?
Yeah, so Matt Cain, definitely a guy that we're attacking. Going to Arizona, Philly, Zach Godley is one of the guys we're looking at playing.
Absolutely.
Philadelphia is a bottom 3 team in the last 7 days in terms of overall offense. Not scoring a lot of runs. Their strikeouts haven't exactly been low. We know that they're a power or nothing team, and unfortunately most of that power comes versus left-handed pitching. Zach Godley, unfortunately for Philadelphia, is right-handed. He's not giving up fly balls, which really plays into his favor in a hitter-friendly park. Hard contact under 30%, and a very respectable K rate of 20%. You're looking at Philly. What they do, they're striking out almost 24% of the time versus right-handed bats this year. They actually have scored less runs at home than they have on the road. So Zach Godley, for me, and I think Michael agrees, is a pitcher that we think we can pay for. I know you said he's the 5th highest on the DraftKings early slate?
That's correct. Yeah, there's a couple other guys that he'd be a price pivot off of. I imagine he's probably getting most of the ownership. The 3 guys I'm talking about are Fulmer, Godley, Tanaka, all of which most people that play DFS every day would say are in a plus matchup. So I think I prefer Godley out of the 3. I think that's why we chose him to talk about in Philadelphia. And I think a lot of people, look at those 3 guys, and I mean, you look at Fulmer, Rookie of the Year last year, Tanaka, bona fide ace, K upside in Oakland, and then Godley's kind of a question mark that's been paying people money. So you look at his stats. I mean, you talk about ground ball pitcher being one of the main reasons we like him. It's not a fluke. He's got a ground ball to fly ball ratio of 3.14, but you look at his career numbers in the minor leagues, in the times he's made spot starts over the last 2 years. That's his style. I mean, it's not a fluke. He's a ground ball guy, and I think this is a Phillies team that tries to hurt you with the long ball and can swing and miss more than the rest.
And that's what I like a lot, is the fact that they do strike out quite a bit versus righties. And that 21% strikeout rate is very fair. It's respectable. It can get you maybe 6, maybe 7 strikeouts in a 6-7 inning. So I think there's plenty of upside for his price tomorrow. So Zach Godley's in play. And for what it's worth, please don't play Arizona on the road. I know they're facing Eichhoff, but the road home away splits are ridiculous. I don't care.
Yeah, definitely worth checking out. I mean, just a little bit more on Godley. I mean, he's not like a 2-pitch pitcher either, man. This guy, does finesse his way through a lineup. He throws his curveball like 30% of the time. So it's not like he's going up there and pitching a contact, because he's a ground ball guy. He does have some swing and miss stuff. And I know a lot of people look at that like, he does initiate the ground ball. That's just his game. But no, he does have some K upside, I think. It's not incredible, but I mean, he's striking out 21% of batters this year. I think that's a solid number against a team that, again, I think is a plus matchup.
Yeah. Another pitcher we're looking to attack is Masahiro Tanaka. Again, I mean, there is K upside with him, and it's very much a GPP play one way or the other, right? Whether you're stacking Oakland or pitching Tanaka. Oakland does strike out quite a bit. You're looking at 25% from both sides of the plate. However, the reason I think we're fading Tanaka and stacking Oakland is the fact that their home road splits are incredible. They're averaging almost a home run one per every 5 fly balls they hit. I know Tanaka isn't the highest fly ball pitcher, but he does have a home run problem versus a team that absolutely if they get a hold of a ball, it's out of the park. And the fact that they're hitting more home runs in a what would be considered a pitcher's park versus on the road is intriguing, but you can't deny what they're doing at home. So there's no way I'd pitch Tanaka tomorrow. And in fact, I do think, given his home run issues, I mean, over 2 home runs per 9 this year, he's getting the balls are leaving the bat against him almost 90 miles an hour on average. 40% of the balls hit against him are 95 plus. You're talking about an Oakland team that has 4 guys over 40% hard contact on the year. Just not a recipe for success for Tanaka tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said this is a GPP decision one way or the other, whether you're going to stack against him or whether you're going to play him. I think if you look at any of the numbers this season, I mean, there's no lie. He's having a terrible season. But if you look at predictive metrics, everything points to regression. I mean, we talk about xFIP, left on base percentage, BABIP, as 3 primary regression metrics, and they all kind of point that direction. Home run per fly ball ratio at 22.8% this season. That is far and away. I mean, he's always had a bit of a home run problem. I think his career is at 15%, but 22% for a fly ball going out of the yard, I think, is unsustainable. So there will be some regression this season for Tanaka. He's played pretty bad, and he's coming off a good start. So I could see why you would want to maybe play him, and I see why people would want to maybe think about it against this team that does swing and miss a lot. He did have his swing and miss stuff against LA. But again, Oakland, like you said, I think you can find this guy does have a home run problem this year, and he's not been he hasn't really limited the home runs in his career much. So I think you can find some cheap homers just like you normally can against Oakland, and their offense has been steaming a bit. So,
and the fact that they're at home. If this was in New York, I would swing the other way and say play Tanaka.
Yeah. So again,
I think standpoint.
Again, I think you hit it on the head, man. This is a GPP play one way or the other, whether you play him or you stack against him.
Yeah. A lower priced guy that I'm looking at that will be super low owned. I'm interested to see kind of where some of the money comes in. But Wade Miley. St. Louis is very much a different team versus lefties than they are righties. They almost have no power versus left-handed pitching this year. Home run per fly ball rate of 6.5%. So under 1 in every 10 fly balls they hit end up in home runs. You're talking about Matt Carpenter has absolutely struggled versus lefties this year. He has 1 home run. Dexter Fowler does not have a home run versus a lefty. Stephen Piscotty does not have a home run versus a lefty. Jed Gallardo has 2. Aledmus Diaz does not have 1 yet. So you're talking about the main guys in that lineup have hit a combined total of 3 home runs versus lefties this year. Nothing says play them. A 233 average against lefties so far. They also struggle more on the road than they do at home. So I think Wade Miley, in a respectable K rate of 20%, it's not great, but he does a good job of limiting fly balls. So I think pair that with the fact that Wade Miley doesn't give up a lot of fly balls. St. Louis doesn't hit for power when they hit a fly ball. I think that's a recipe for success for him. His only problem is going to be limiting the walks and can he go deep into a game, and that's what makes him a GPP play with maybe worth the lower price and a guy that no one will be on because of his past performances.
Yeah, just to touch on, I think, just to transition here, price is the key to this play. You look at other people in that price range on DraftKings, and you're looking at SP2 option, there really isn't much, and I think even Wade Miley is taking a chance. I generally don't like to pay down at all when I'm thinking about pitching on DK, but people are going to look at his game logs and see that his last 2 starts he got blown up, like at Chicago, at Pittsburgh, but Kyle pointed out to me prior to the show, those are 2 teams that we talk about all the time. They hit lefties much better than they do righties. So
Chicago's the number 1 team in the league versus lefties. So you're looking at extremes here. St. Louis is one of the worst teams versus lefties.
Mm-hmm. So those 2 spots, have caused his price to dramatically drop. And we're also talking about a guy that did have a nice 3-game stretch earlier this season where he was striking out a ton of guys and having people taking second looks. I mean, obviously the walks are the issue with him. If he can keep people off the base pass, I think he makes for a solid floor in this spot against St. Louis for all the numbers you just mentioned. But if he's wild and he's not striking anybody out, especially on DraftKings where you get penalized for putting people on base, it's a cause for concern. So I think he's worth a flyer amongst the rest at that price range, but still obviously a flyer at that.
Yeah, that's fair. Now another guy we're attacking tomorrow is Hyun-Jin Ryu.
Yeah.
Guy's bad. Cincinnati, another team, drastic home road splits, absolutely kill the ball at home, not so much on the road, and they also kill lefties. You're looking at a home run per fly ball rate of almost 20% versus lefties. The players in their lineup, their WOBAs and ISOs are amazing. Zach Cozart's down to 2,900 if he plays tomorrow, so potential there. And a lot of these guys actually in Cincinnati are dropping in price because they've been underperforming. You're looking at every player except Votto is under 3K tomorrow on FanDuel. So yeah. Cincinnati, I think, could be a chalky stack. I think they're deserving of it. Hyun-Jin Ryu has not been good. He's given up almost 2 home runs per 9. Just in a hitter's ballpark. Team that kills lefties, not a recipe for success for him.
Yeah, I think the main reason I started to look at this because I remember this game was like a week ago, and Ryu is coming. They're like cycling these 6 pitchers to try to keep people, resting. Mm-hmm. And he gave up 3 home runs against a team that, like we've been saying, hasn't really been playing very well. So that was a crooked number that I like to see from a DFS perspective. If this guy recently just gave 3 home runs for this team, and now you have a better ballpark shift for Cincinnati. But like you said, I think they have been struggling. Their prices reflect that. At least on FanDuel they do. But on DraftKings, I mean, you're still paying up to the big guys. Cozart's price has obviously dropped a bunch, mm-hmm. But we knew that was coming. Still at 4K, I mean, I consider that paying up for shortstop. But I like it, man. I think if I had to pick, who I'm going to target here, I think I go 2 through 5. I stay middle of the order, and I think it's worthy of a paying up.
Yeah, and also Ryu's a reverse split guy, struggles more versus lefties. So you're looking at Schebler, Votto. If they play tomorrow, lefties versus him. Also, I just want to point out real quick, potential flyer, Asher. Not my favorite guy to stack against tomorrow. Limited sample size, but has done well at home. So,
and again, Ryu's been giving up home runs. It's not just like one game. He gave up 3 home runs. He's been giving up home runs all year. Home run per fly ball of right around 23%. Yep. Hard contact rate of 33.9. So that's not what you want to see. Yeah, I don't know. I just think this is a good spot to go after Ryu on the road in a nice ballpark.
I agree. Next guy we're attacking is Jeff Locke. And we're looking at primarily Matt Kemp. Some of the righties on Atlanta, right? These guys, especially Matt Kemp, he should be back tomorrow. Was resting today. So Jeff Locke, nice story. It came out, pitched really, really well versus the Diamondbacks. It was also in Miami. Diamondbacks were on the road. Go figure. Atlanta kills left-handed pitching this year. They're batting almost 280 versus them. They're not striking out either. 17% strikeout rate versus lefties, Mike, and a home run per fly ball rate of 4% higher versus lefties and righties. Mm-hmm. Also, we do know it's in Atlanta. Hitter's paradise. So I think everything matches up for a low-owned Atlanta stack.
Yeah, I think that's the key to me is the ballpark and the price of this stack. Against a pitcher that obviously is unproven. He got let go by a team that needs pitching in favor of some poor pitchers coming up, i.e. Tyler Glasnow. Kind of let him go in Pittsburgh. So Miami took a flyer. Again, you mentioned the coming out party after the injury, and then he kind of fallen off against two teams, Chicago and Pittsburgh.
Lefties.
That, right.
Pittsburgh
that lefties kill. So, obviously 2 lefties in this game. This ballpark gives up home runs. This guy has, in his career, been giving up fly balls, kind of limited this year, really hasn't seen the home run, and we really haven't seen much of Jeff Locke anyway, but we've been talking about this Atlanta team for a while now. It's a cheap way to go, especially when you got a subpar pitcher coming into this ballpark. It's always a look for me.
Always. And then interesting, Jaime Garcia makes an interesting play as well tomorrow. Just been pitching really well, but it is worth noting Miami absolutely destroys lefties in the power department. So GPP.
Yeah, I think that's a similar thing to Tanaka. I think I can go either way on that Jaime Garcia play.
Yeah. Chase Anderson is a guy we're looking at pitching, and primarily, not only has he pitched really well at home this year, I mean, he's pitched great overall. Dude is on another level. But he's also in a very favorable price point in that the guys above, he's the third highest on DraftKings at least. The guys above him are Strasburg and Archer. He's also facing a Padres team that is really hot. Now, Peralta is a guy that I think is playing way over his head. You definitely ride the hot streak, but this guy was never a bona fide prospect. Maybe he's putting it together. But there's no doubt what the San Diego lineup is doing. It's just, I think Chase Anderson, I'll always give edge to the pitcher, and right now, what he's doing is on another level. And again, I think you'll get him low ownership tomorrow, given that he's right below the 2 high-priced guys that I think people will naturally gravitate towards.
Do you believe in, hot streaks for pitchers?
I do. You know what's crazy is, I'm actually a big believer in months as well. There are some guys that the calendar will turn and they are a different pitcher. Now, if they pitch May 31st as opposed to June 1st, you'll notice a complete difference. I don't know why. Baseball is the most superstitious sport out there. And I believe it, man. I do believe in hot streaks. And
yeah, I mean, I just say that because this 4-game streak is uncharacteristic of Chase Anderson, obviously. There's a reason we've never heard of him. I mean, obviously I've heard of him, but
I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? On a level where he's now the 3rd highest priced pitcher on DraftKings on a 10-game slate. So you look at his numbers over the course of his, this is now his 3rd full season in the majors. The strikeout numbers are uncharacteristic for him. His swinging strike percentage is way up as well.
Yep.
He's facing a team that strikes out a ton. I mean, granted they've been swinging the bat well. However, I mean, this is kind of the case of unprovens, man. We have a team that can put it together. We have a pitcher that also can put it together, but at the same time, would you rather pay up to pay for a player like Chase Anderson or pay down for a team like San Diego?
If I'm going to GPP, I'm looking at Chase Anderson really, really hard from the standpoint of low ownership. I really believe he gets low ownership tomorrow, given his price.
Yeah, I mean, that's another fair point. This guy's probably overpriced tomorrow. 3rd highest priced player, and I think there's really nobody around him. I mentioned the 3 guys, Tanaka, Godley, and who's the other one? Fulmer.
Yeah.
They're all in the same price range, and then you have Archer and Strasburg who are both in the same price range, and then right in between them is Chase Anderson. You can't really compare anywhere, so I could see people going above or below him. So maybe Chase Anderson, Zach Godley lineup could be a little low owned tomorrow.
True. Tampa Bay and Detroit, real quick. Neither of these 2 guys make our top 5 pitchers. It is worth noting that Chris Archer and Steven Strasburg similar in price. I think we both agree Strasburg's a better play. Chris Archer's hard contact is concerning at 40% versus the hardest hitting team in the league. And Detroit is swinging the bat really, really well right now. They're one of the top 10 teams in the league over the last 7 days. So not a lot of things line up for Chris Archer in Detroit tomorrow. Take also the fact that Victor Martinez, that walking double play, is out of the lineup. That offense, I actually think, becomes better. So Chris Archer's a fade for us.
However, from a tournament perspective, this reminds me of the night when the only 2 guys to pay up to were Michael Pineda and Cleveland pitcher Kluber.
Yeah.
and everyone went Pineda, and Kluber was the play. So obviously we know what Archer can do and his talents. So
super GPP. I just don't like his
absolutely.
matchup at all. Yeah. So
Strasburg is the obvious play over Archer tomorrow.
Yeah.
But
So
it's baseball.
Speaking of Archer, Mets are bad at home. They have a 230 average at home. They are hitting home runs 7% less of the time when they hit a fly ball. Their hard contact is down. Their ground balls are up. K percentage remains about the same, but Strasburg's K rate is ridiculous this year. You're talking about a team. I mean, they're going to load up the lineup with lefties, of course. Strasburg, for what it's worth, has actually pitched better to lefties than he has righties. He's given up almost just about 20% hard contact to lefties this year. He's really limited fly balls. So there's just a lot to like for me about Strasburg.
Again, the only thing I don't like about Strasburg is his price.
Yep.
It's a lot of money off a guy coming off poor performance in Atlanta. Or was it? No, it was not against Atlanta. But there's a lot of money to risk. I think, obviously, paying up to one of those two guys is going to dramatically change your lineup construction. So you have to really do a risk-reward analysis. Obviously, I prefer to pay up for my pitcher, and I would rather differentiate with my SP2 on DraftKings, but I think on FanDuel, from a tournament perspective, it's going to be a different call, especially if, as we believe, Strasburg gets the entirety of the ownership. So on FanDuel, from a tournament perspective, you're going to have a call to make. On DraftKings, I think you can try and differentiate with your SP2 and lock him in. I think the matchup makes sense, and he's really the guy with the K upside that I think is the right move, And then, yeah, I gotta plug my computer in real quick. Hold on.
All right, you're good. Real quick on Seth Lugo, this dude got beat out by Robert Gsellman in spring training, so I really don't buy into his first start. I don't think he's a great pitcher. He's mad cheap on DraftKings. There's no way I'm paying $7,700 for him on FanDuel, but $5,100. Guess if you want to go there, Mets probably. Is this a 4-game series? I think it's a 4-game series, so they're not in danger of getting swept yet. But Seth Lugo, I don't think I'm looking there. I'm looking at Bryce Harper, obviously, Daniel Murphy, the lefties. So Seth Lugo's a no. And then finally, this game is not on the DraftKings early. It is on the FanDuel. I really want to attack Yovani Gallardo. He's a reverse split guy as well. He gets hit more versus righties, but the power is on the lefty side in Texas. I hope they keep playing Robinson Chirinos. The dude is actually hitting better than Jonathan Lucroy right now. So I would love to see him in the lineup again. That would make a nice play. I think you can still look at some of the lefty bats on Texas, but and it's also worth noting they hit incredibly better at home than they do on the road, where it is in Texas. So.
Yep, Texas always got a surplus of bats. I can see a lineup with both those catchers in it. Obviously, they got 2 third basemen now. So it's going to be interesting to see if these pitchers can help bring them cut the deficit on Houston a bit. I can see it though.
So to recap the early, we are looking at playing our top 4 pitchers on the main are going to be Zach Godley, Wade Miley, Chase Anderson, and Steven Strasburg. And then the 4 we're attacking are Matt Cain, 5 kind of, because 1 on each. So Matt Cain's only DraftKings, obviously, for the early slate. We're looking at attacking Masahiro Tanaka. We're looking at attacking Hyun-Jin Ryu. We're looking at attacking Jeff Locke. And we are looking at attacking Yovani Gallardo for the FanDuel only early.
Yeah, not having the Coors game on FanDuel, I think it also makes for an interesting tournament lineup build. So.
Yeah, that was good. That's the chalk stack. I think Cincinnati becomes the chalk stack on that.
Right, but that's cheap, so I think makes a lot of sense to me with Strasburg. I think that would probably get most of the ownership on FanDuel from just looking at it from afar. Which
makes an interesting point, real quick, of maybe fading Strasburg and paying for Chase Anderson and leaving a little money on the table. It's a sport. Baseball is a sport you can leave money on the table, and so that makes for an interesting play. Getting to this main slate, obviously we'll have the second game of the Cleveland, Minnesota, that right now will feature Mike Clevenger and Alberto Mejia. Neither of those two guys make our top pitcher to attack or fade or play. Rick Porcello is the guy we want to attack for sure with a Houston stack. Dude's been bad this year. You're looking at Houston. They actually have hit for higher average and WOBA on the road, but I think a lot of it could be skewed again with how they just absolutely blew up on that road trip. So I'm not buying into it yet. I still think Houston's a good team regardless of location, and Rick Porcello is a bad team or a bad pitcher regardless of location, somewhere you can attack.
Yeah, I touched on a couple nights ago, probably maybe a week ago now, about Altuve's home road splits being drastic. If you haven't seen them, go check them out. It's going to regress at some point, but just overall, man, looking at this 4-game slate on DraftKings when you need 2 pitchers, man, it is just a dart throw to me. It really is. Obviously, you have Arrieta that's like $4,000 more expensive than everybody else, but, is he worth that? I mean, is he worth... You're going to be able to get anybody else you want if you don't play him. Any hitter you want. It's just not a fun slate for me to play. I think literally any of these pitchers could be in play. Obviously, I think Porcello... I mean, I can't see him getting more red than he already is. So, obviously, we want to attack him because of the home run numbers. He makes for a good DFS stack in this ballpark against this team, especially when you can pay for it. So, I might as well do it. But, again, I could easily see the winning lineup having him in it as well.
In regards to your Jake Arrieta point, Pittsburgh is a top 3 team in the last 7 days. And, again, if you're someone like I do that values recent performance, teams, we talk about hot streaks. Pittsburgh is on one of them right now. And so Arrieta that has shown some regression, plenty of attackability, I don't think he's worth paying up for tomorrow. And on the flip, I think our favorite pitcher on this 4-game slate is going to be Ivan Nova. And Chicago is actually a bottom 5 team over the last 7 days. Anthony Rizzo has taken very, very kindly to leading off, so that's a thing. But Ivan Nova is an elite ground ball pitcher. He doesn't give up home runs, doesn't give up a lot of hard contact, a guy that can pitch deep into games. And quite honestly, if he's going to go 8 innings and get you, let's say, 4 strikeouts, that's a plenty respectable performance.
Yeah, when we talk about it, how do you earn points in DFS? Most from your pitcher. Generally, it's whether the guy's going to get you strikeouts or play deep into games, or both. I mean, both is what you want. A guy's going to get you a lot of strikeouts and play deep into the game. I mean, if this guy showed a track record, I think he leads the league in pitches per innings pitched as far as the fewest.
Yeah, the fewest.
That's just his game, man. He pitches strikes. He wants you to hit the ball on the ground, and he keeps the ball in the ballpark, and he's going to have a good ballpark for it. And I think it's an extremely great pivot off of Jake Arrieta. I mean,
the ownership
playing in the same game
is going to be huge.
Exactly. So on DraftKings, when you need to play 2 pitchers, I try to avoid these types of slates. At least I like to at least have 5 games just because you need 2 pitchers. But I don't know. I think Nova is one of those guys, and I don't know, man.
I'm with you. I like Nova the best. I think Alex Meyer is interesting. There is K upside, but Kansas City is on a tear right now. Again, just going to keep mentioning it. They hit better away. Theo mentioned it last night. They actually don't visit a hitter's park until July 31st, another month and a half. And what they're doing right now, Lorenzo Cain's on a tear, Alex Gordon's on a tear, Salvador Perez. So
it's not good for those teams that these players that potentially are going to get traded at July 31st.
Right. So I think Ivan Nova is my favorite play. I don't know if any pitcher is really safe on this slate. Houston's a great hitter's park. Kansas City is mad hot. Jake Junis is not exactly an ace pitcher.
One guy I think you can look at is Clevenger. I don't know. I just feel like he's shown flashes, right?
Yeah.
For his price, I think maybe he's a guy that I'm looking at. But like you said, Arrieta, Meyer, again, Porcello, I think on a 4-game slate like this has to be in consideration when you need 2 pitchers because of what his track record is.
I'm stacking against Porcello, though, personally.
Yeah, no, I am as well. I'm just saying that I wouldn't be surprised
Oh yeah, to get some
if he
ownership.
was in the winning lineup.
Yeah. So, all right. So that is where we are on. Of course, give us some feedback if you guys kind of like the format, more streamlined, hopefully more to the point, kind of highlighting the guys we're looking at from a pitching standpoint and stacking standpoint, and then of course,
Tomorrow.
we'll dive in tomorrow. Well, at least Mike will be at work, but I'll dive in tomorrow and we'll talk stacks and Vegas and where the money is and everything like that for those of you guys in the River Group. So any feedback is welcome and appreciated. And of course, if you guys we have a podcast up on iTunes. Had to start a new feed, so that description is down below. We're waiting on Google Play to authenticate and publish the podcast. So for those of you on Android, sorry, that's coming. But if you're working and you don't have time to watch a video, but you want to listen, if you're able to use headphones at work, that link is below. Subscribe, and you'll get a notification every time the video is uploaded or the podcast.
Yeah, and I think we kind of wanted to keep it real for you guys too. I mean, what we would recommend to do is the night before do this. You look at the slate the night before, you narrow down your pitching player pool in the sense of who you want to pitch, and you narrow down it looking at the pitchers who aren't going to change most likely, or who you want to maybe stack against. And that way you start to narrow your pool down, and you start to get a look at the pricing on the slate, and maybe you sleep on that and you wake up with an epiphany or something, and then once the lineups start coming out, you already have a leg up on your thought process has started. And I think that's kind of how we do things. And so, in a sense, by doing it this way, really trying to keep it real with you guys. And again, tomorrow, we share our lineup building process and exactly what we're looking at with the whole community. So,
exactly.
That's kind of where I think we're at, right?
Yes, sir. So. All right, guys. Well, thank you again for tuning in. Appreciate you guys staying up with us, obviously, in the wee hours of the morning.
Yes.
But we'll be back a couple hours, be up in a few hours to start updating some lineups. So have a wonderful night or morning if you're listening in the morning. Make it a profitable Saturday.
Thanks, guys.